Steve on the street here for Boxcar Universe, and it's May 4th, and may the 4th be with you. And the Force is here with the Electrify Expo, and I am here with BJ Birtwell. He is the CEO and founder of this wonderful expo. BJ, thank you so much for having us here today.
Yep, thanks for having me on. Looking forward to talking with you about all things electric.
Well, it's amazing. We had a chance to walk around and see some of the great exhibits here. Tell us a little bit about your background and how this expo came to be a reality.
I like telling this story because it's not your typical story about people getting into EVs and electric cars, electric vehicles. So I'm a car guy, and so I kind of grew up modifying and tweaking on cars. And I always felt like, hey, I'd see an electric car on the road, and that definitely was not a car for me because I felt like if I couldn't hear the rumble of a V8, that car lacked a soul. And that's how I felt until I actually drove one. And I finally drove an electric car, and like I had my light bulb moment. And it was really fun to drive. I really enjoyed it. And I just imagined that there were more people out there like me that had this idea or this conception or this perception about electric cars, that maybe if they had an experience with one, you got behind the wheel of one in a real world environment, maybe they would have a light bulb moment. So that's kind of the genesis of Electrify Expo, and now here we are into basically our 4th year and producing this tour. We're at 8 stops all over the country, 1 million square feet of space of all things electric, you know, grabbing the biggest brands in the world to show people how fun electric vehicles can be of all types, and give them their own experiences.
You know, it's amazing, you know, with some of the people that I spoke to from some of the different exhibits, I think they went through the same like aha moment that you just explained to us, because they've got the terminology down. They know exactly how many kilowatts the car uses, you know, how far it can go, and the history of how the vehicle came to be, which I think is so important when people really, not just seeing them, but really getting involved in talking with them as they visit the different, you know, booths.
Yeah, I think what we've seen is a change in the types of consumers that come to Electrify Expo. The first couple years, it was the people who had a sustainability mindset, an eco-conscious mindset. They were almost EV advocates already, and they were kind of making that early adopting decision to go electric. And now, 3 years later, I feel like those people have made their choice. They're going electric, they know what they want to drive, and now we're entering this new wave of consumer who is more e-curious. They may not have an eco-conscious mindset. They've heard a lot about electric cars. They're reading a lot about it. They're hearing a lot about it on the news, and they're like, hey, I think I need to go check out this electric thing to see if it's for me. And that's really what we do here at Electrify Expo. We're not here to tell somebody they should go electric. We're saying, hey, look, this is 1 million square feet of outdoor festival space where we're going to give you an opportunity to feel the thrill of going electric. And if it's right for you, go grab an electric car or go grab a plug-in hybrid or hop on an e-bike or an e-scooter or an e-skateboard. And we're providing those experiences.
Yeah, and I think it's so important. There are a lot of local people from the Phoenix area exhibiting here today, as from bikes to one of things that are close to my home, like right behind us, that tractor, the electric, you know, tractor that I used to drive cross country with. And the gentleman told me at the booth, he said that if you drive one of those, that you're never going to go back and drive a diesel again.
That's how it was for me. You have your light bulb moment, and you know, there's no going back after that. I mean, I have an electric vehicle at home. I fill up, you know, for $5, and I've never needed any maintenance. And I'm a car guy. Like, I don't mind maintaining a car. I don't mind changing oil. I don't mind getting up under a vehicle and wrenching on it. But I don't have to do that anymore. There's other things that I can do to customize it and make it my own. But yeah, I think that this is just a really good opportunity for people to kind of like cut through some of the EV narrative that's out there and allow people to have their opportunity or their experiences here and use those experiences to figure out, okay, this is for me, or, you know, this isn't for me. And either way, we just want to provide the opportunity to people. And I think that the fact that there's so many types of vehicles that are going electric, so you mentioned the Nikola BEV behind us. So we have big fleet, heavy duty vehicles. You know, we have 3-row SUVs. We have obviously things like the Tesla Cybertruck here, and then we have, you know, a variety of 2-wheel products. And it's not just about looking at these products. Like, people are getting behind the wheel and mashing the accelerator on these vehicles and having a great time.
Yeah. I really want to find that Tesla truck. Because I've only seen one on the road so far, and it looks a little bit strange because it's not your typical, vehicle that's got a lot of curves and everything else. It's kind of boxy looking, but it's definitely unique.
Yeah, people come from far and wide to go get up close and personal with the Cybertruck. Definitely a polarizing vehicle. But I think that the industry's come so far from like the last 3 years where there was really only one horse in the race 3 or 4 years ago. So people didn't have a lot of selection, a lot of things to choose from. And then fast forward to today where, there's small cars, there's medium-sized cars, there's large cars, there's small SUVs, there's 3-row SUVs, there's pickup trucks, like there's motorcycles, there's everything for people to choose from now. So now it's just getting people comfortable with this idea of having a new fuel to choose. Like the car is the same. The fuel is different, if you can call electric fuel. So we just have to get people to understand that there's not a lot of confusion about plugging a charger into a car and getting it to full, but we have to find a better way to talk about it. We can't talk in kilowatts and ampage because the general consumer doesn't understand kilowatts and ampage. So we all need to identify what that language is going to be and allow consumers to kind of more quickly understand kind of the ins and outs of going electric. And this is what this festival does. It helps them understand that.
Now, one of the things that I had seen when I did some research before we did the interview is that this expo here in Phoenix is a little bit different than some of the other ones where you have a lot more interactive, where people can actually test drive and experience what it is to ride on an electric bike or in an electric car. But then also, they mentioned races here. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're at State Farm Stadium, so obviously it's a world-class venue, host of the 2023 Super Bowl, 2024 Final Four. So there's a lot of real estate to spread out here and do fun things with. So we have a few things that are doing. We do a thrill zone, which is an area where Ford will bring out, Ford and other manufacturers will bring out vehicles and they'll give thrill rides. So these cars are drifting and having really spirited driving. And you're sitting in the passenger seat.
I like that, spirited driving. I think we've all done a little bit of spirited driving.
Yeah, spirited driving in a closed course environment. It's really great, a lot of fun. But we also added the Electrify Race League, which is it's a new race league that we founded to allow people on 2 wheels or skateboards to compete, just like you would compete with any sort of motorsport. This is a league that allows these pro and amateur athletes to come in and race against each other. So we did launch that here in Phoenix.
And I think that'll be good for a lot of our young people who like to be able to go out and, want to experience it and race it. I remember my dad built, when I was a kid, he built a go-kart for me, and it had a 4-stroke Briggs & Stratton engine on it, and it was always noisy. And I saw when walking around, I was like, electric go-karts. I said, that's got to be an experience to be able to go around and race somebody, and there would be no noise.
Yeah, very different, right? And as a car guy, I don't know how I feel about that yet. I don't mind the sound of motorsports. I think that motorsports should fuel in motorsports should have its place. We have a long legacy and history of amazing athletes and drivers and amazing development in motorsports, and I'd love to see that continue. But there are forms of motorsport that can go electric, and it can still be really very thrilling to watch. And so it's been interesting to see how Formula One and IndyCar and even NASCAR are embracing electric vehicles. Obviously, right now there's Formula E. I don't know if you heard about that, but Formula E is a similar to F1, but it's all electric motors. So this is Electrify Race League is something totally different, but the idea of it is the same in the sense of we're trying to bring in the best athletes around the country, allow them to compete together in these micromobility equipment and machines on this racetrack. So it's a lot of fun, and we'll have to see how it plays out here in Phoenix.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. How do you see the industry come in the next 5 years, 10 years? Where do you think it's going to go?
Well, I think the EV infrastructure needs to catch up. I think it's the pace at what consumers can adopt EVs runs parallel with how our country is laying out EV infrastructure. So there's two things at play there. Number one is if you own a home, you can charge at home. That's fantastic, and that's amazing luxury to have. But for people who don't own a home and are in an apartment or in a condo or a townhome that they don't have that infrastructure in the garage where they can charge, there needs to be enough EV infrastructure out there for them to charge. So I think that we're still in the very early stages of EVs. I always give the example of, like, we're going from horse-drawn carriage to that next stage of vehicle. And when we went to gas cars from horse-drawn carriage, gas was delivered via a milk truck because there wasn't enough gas stations everywhere. That's where we find ourselves, not enough stations everywhere. So in order for EV adoption to try to hit this kind of critical mass, we need EV infrastructure to catch up. I think the manufacturers are doing an amazing job. Tesla, Kia, Lexus, Toyota, Volvo, BMW, all these manufacturers that are here with us, amazing job producing the right vehicles. So I think that as EV infrastructure catches up, EV adoption will also increase. But I think I'm really happy with the trajectory of EV adoption. I mean, it's certainly at a pace where manufacturers have retooled entire manufacturing facilities in order to accommodate battery electric vehicles. So, I think that the trajectory of this industry over the next 3 or 4 years is extremely strong, and more people are going to choose to go electric.
I think you're right. I mean, it's definitely a wave of the future, and despite certain people that I think it would behoove them to come out to the expo this weekend and just check out what it's like to drive a electric vehicle or take a bike. I was talking to one of the other exhibitors over at on the other side of the expo, where they have motorcycles with batteries, and they're coming out with actually a travel bag where they can actually pull the battery out, put the bike in the travel bag. You could take it with you on the plane. You put the power packs in your carry-on, and you're off, to another city, another land, maybe, and you'll be able to just take the bike out, plug it in, and away you go. And you wouldn't even, if you didn't want to, you wouldn't have to get in any kind of Uber or Lyft or anything else. You just get on your bike and take off.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the e-bike industry, is that there's so many different types of models of bikes. You're mentioning a very compact bike that either folds or it's so small that you can actually just throw it into an overhead bin. And those bikes are amazing. In fact, it's funny when you look at them. A brand like Jackrabbit makes a compact bike like that, and when you look at it, you're like, man, that bike looks small.
Those are the people I spoke to.
But then when you get on the bike and you ride it, you realize how stable it is, how easy it is to get around, and it becomes something like you just have to get on it to experience it. And you're like, I could actually put this to use. But there's also cargo bikes and all types of different bikes for people. Based on either what they do for a living or how they need to get around from their home or their place of residence to the grocery store or to their place of work. Great micromobility options.
That's great. PJ, thank you so much for taking time out to speak with us today and all our listeners, and we're definitely going to get the word out. And we've got some other people we're going to speak to here at the expo. So I just want to say thank you. We really appreciate it.
Great. We still have another few stops around the country. So if you're watching this, we do hit Los Angeles and Denver and San Francisco, Seattle, New York, and Austin still this year. So I invite you all out to come experience Electrify Expo.
No, it's great. Electrify Expo this weekend right here at Cardinal Stadium, State Farm Stadium. And May the 4th be with you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.